Back on the Fantasy Football Happy Hour desk, Jay Croucher and Matthew Berry with Fantasy Football royalty Jonathan Taylor. Look at these numbers here. 5th in the NFL in rushing attempts, 4th in rushing yards, 3rd in rushing yards per game, and top 12 in the NFL in rushing touchdowns. JT, always a pleasure to have you, man. Thanks and congratulations on a great season.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys having me on. I know you guys got a lot going on, so I appreciate you taking the time out.
I love it. JT, so obviously a tough year for the Colts overall, how it ended, but you personally ended the season on an absolute tear. 4+ 100-yard rushing yards games to end the season. How do you take that momentum into next year?
I think you carry that into the offseason and you realize and you understand, one, you want to be playing your best ball at the end of the year. So being able to finish off like that was awesome. But now you have to kind of reset because it's a year-to-year league. You know, it doesn't really matter what you did last year. It's, hey, what are you going to do this year? Can you prove it again? So just being able to take that feeling, being able to take those emotions and how I felt at the end of the year and push that into my training to help have a great offseason. If you have a great offseason, that sets you up for a great end season.
I remember in 2021, you ended the season in similar fashion, over even a longer stretch where, you had that 200-yard game against the Bills, you had the huge run to beat the Patriots on national TV that game. Is there something about the end of the season where you feel like you build into the year? Yeah,
man, and shout out to my high school coach, Montre Wright. I mean, he's always said, you want to play your best ball in November and December. So, of course, now translating into the league, it's really that December, that January ball. You want to be playing your best football. So I've always been someone to want to finish strong because those are the games that's going to matter.
You know what, you talk about finishing strong. I want to talk about this because I thought this was so impressive. So you had the game, I think it was week 14, but the fumble at the goal line, right? Before you're ready to celebrate, you ended up celebrating a little bit too early, right? There's the fumble. And then, the next week you go 3 touchdowns, you run into the tunnel, like you have fun with it and everything like that. But talk to me about that week because obviously that was a play that got a lot of attention and that, there's this whole week and you can't wait to get back on the field and prove yourself. Yeah. But I feel like a lot of players would have just cowered in that moment and got into themselves and you came out even stronger. So talk to me about that week and that process getting over that moment.
Yeah, that was definitely tough, especially with the implications that they had. It was hence probably the reason why I was so excited. And it definitely was a while since I kind of broke loose and had a long run. But talking to teammates, family, friends, you think about all of the touchdown runs I've had, all of the carries I've had in my whole career, and that never has happened. So it was definitely devastating, but then it was also made it a bit easier to get ready for that next week because you understood this wasn't something of habit. It was just, a mishap that happened, and you understood, like, listen, okay, if you ever go through a stint again where, you may have a bunch of games with just tough yards, and when you finally do break loose, just wait a couple more steps until you get in the end zone to start celebrating.
Yeah, I think also, people didn't give you enough credit for the fact that after that game, you talked to reporters, you answered every single question for a long time, and they're asking the same question in like a different way, and you just respectfully answered every question there, so I thought that was really cool to see. A guy who was under a lot of scrutiny this year is Anthony Richardson. He's obviously had some huge moments, and I think he showed a lot of growth over the course of the year. Can you just talk about how he evolved as a quarterback and what you're expecting from him?
Yeah, it's a tough league, and I don't think people still realize how young he is.
Yeah.
There are guys coming in this draft who are like 24. I think he's still like 22.
Yeah.
He's only played 13 games in college, I think now 15 in the NFL. So he still hasn't played a bunch of ball, but one thing that people don't see is he's in his iPad. He's in the playbook. He's getting extra reps on the field. He's doing the things that need to be done to make a great quarterback. He's just young, and it's a tough league. Everybody wants to win right now. Everybody wants to be a superstar right now. It takes time, but we're 100% behind him, especially us as teammates. We understand and we know the work that he's putting in. He's going to put in a ton of work this offseason, just like the rest of us, because we need to come together this next offseason for something special. We want to be here in a different setting. We want to be in the hotel getting ready to play in the big game.
Not only did you play with Anthony Richardson this year, you also played with Comeback Player of the Year, Joe Flacco, the reigning Comeback Player of the Year. I am curious to you, though, what is the obviously very different quarterbacks in terms of style, in terms of their physicality. Talk to me about the difference between playing with Joe versus playing with Anthony in terms of how your role in the offense emerges.
And number one, Joe, he's so smart. He'll know where everything is supposed to be. And at the end of the day, I talk about how young AR is. nothing beats experience. So all of the defensive schemes that Joe has seen throughout his years, I mean, he's able to recognize it within like 5 seconds. Loves to be under center. I mean, that's probably most likely where he's most comfortable at. But then you can tell Anthony, he's on the new school. He's in the gun. He likes using his legs as a threat, which that's one of his most dangerous threats that he has. But just, I like having that kind of yin and yang. I mean, you got the new school, you got the old school, like you grew up watching Joe Flacco, but you can still learn, and I think that AR has been able to learn from him. Shoot, I've even been learning from Joe, because when I have quarterbacks like that, the Phillip Rivers, the Matt Ryans, I say, hey, what has a running back done that's made your job easier? Like, that's what I like to do.
Tell me something you learned from Joe Flacco this year.
Number one thing that Joe said is, I always love, definitely you want receivers to be in a spot, but, coverages, they change when the ball snaps. He said, but having my running back in the spot he's supposed to be in is always a great feeling, because you have an outlet. So now that's my thinking when I'm in there with Joe. I'm like, okay, at the end of the day, check protection and then get to my spot.
Yeah, it did seem like they were using you more in the passing game this year, which was nice to see, because you are somebody that can catch the ball. They just, Wisconsin never threw the ball to the running backs, so it was never part of your game. Didn't need to be, because you're scoring all these touchdowns, but it does feel like that's kind of an expansion of your game, and you were able to show that skill set some this year.
Definitely. That's why I love Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen, if you're the guy, if you're one of his guys, he's not mixing and matching people. Well, okay, I'll put this guy in. He's like, no, I know our guy can do it. I'll scheme it up for him, and this is the play that we're going to run. And I think he just lets you utilize your talents, and that's something I'm going to continue to grow in, continue to still hone in on Shane's system to make sure, like, hey, no matter what he asks of me, I'm able to do it and do it at a high level.
Yep. How's it been like, the change from going from, initially Frank Reich and now Shane Steichen? Shane is thought of as this, offensive guru, a lot of RPO stuff, saw the work that he did in Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts, and now with Gardner Minshew last year, and now with Joe and Anthony. It's a lot of different quarterbacks, but what is it like playing for Shane?
It's amazing. I mean, there's been times I go out on the practice field, and he's like, hey, JT, come here. And just like the movies, a little piece of paper, and he's like, this is what I'm thinking. Draw a little play up. He's like, I'm going to run it, during third period. And you're like, okay, let's do it. Like, he's always constantly thinking, how can I put my guys in a position to be successful and out-coach the opposing coach?
One of the things, we're a fantasy football show, so we look at numbers, and there's a lot of debate in the fantasy football industry, for whatever reason. I'll tell you what side I'm on, but that, hey, a running quarterback, somebody who's as mobile as Anthony Richardson, is bad for a running back in terms of production, just because, hey, you get in close, and maybe Anthony keeps it to get into the end zone. We see Jalen Hurts, definitely think about what kind of season Saquon would have had if Jalen didn't take so many 1-yard runs. But I'm of the argument that because of the threat of Anthony Richardson's ability, it opens up lanes for you guys, especially because Shane does so much RPO stuff. And I'm just curious what Richardson's mobility does for your game.
For me, it lets you play a lot faster. When you have a quarterback that really doesn't have the threat of his legs, you kind of really have to play with your tempo and kind of manipulate the backers, bring them to their blocks. But when you have a guy like Anthony and he's able to use his legs, you're able to just play faster, because that backer is going to be out of position. Whether it's a foot, whether it's 2 feet, he's going to be out of position. So now you can just hit it full speed. So it kind of just lets you play that much faster.
Yep. Do you pay a lot of attention to the other running backs around the league week to week? Guys like, Saquon and Derrick Henry, who probably had the best running back season since your 2021, along with CMC last year. Do you watch them and kind of drives you to be better each week?
100%. I mean, we all are fans of the game, and we love watching other guys. And number one, I mean, Saquon is playing out of this world this year. Something I think is a little underrated that I don't know why people aren't talking about. Derrick Henry, what he's been doing the past few years, he's on a crazy tear. But then also guys who also walked last year, like Josh Jacobs, he had a great year. So I do think it's funny how things change from one year to the next, because last year it was, is there value there? And now it's, oh my gosh, they're super valuable.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite running back in the NFL?
Number one, for sure, Derrick Henry. Like I just mentioned, the consistency. I'm a big consistency guy. The consistency he's playing with is out of this world. 15+ hundred yards like the past 4 seasons. I mean, that's insane.
Yep.
He's a genetic freak of nature. Like, he's just a genetic freak of nature. I met him once, and I'm just like, how are you and I the same species? Like, it's unbelievable.
Okay, well,
like, that guy is...
You're not the same species. He's different.
That's fair.
Have you ever spoken to Derek about, like, how he's been able to keep his body in this shape? Because, like, he was supposed to fall off, like, 5 years ago, and he's still going in that way.
He brings them bad news every single year.
Yeah.
But I think it's in his preparation. He's actually currently, I think he's working out right now. And once you hit a certain age, I know a lot of teams, they think that's the end, but athletes are very regimented. And really, if you take care of your body in the proper way, you're technically not actually the age that you technically are, because you're in just a different type of shape, in which he takes very seriously.
Yep.
I want to go back to the Colts offense here for a second, JT. And so, listen, Pittman's a stud. We all know you and AR. Josh Downs had some really nice moments this year as well, kind of emerging. Is there somebody on the Colts offense that the public may not know about, that maybe it's not a household name, but that you've seen in practice and you're like, you know what, if that kid can get some more snaps, watch out?
There are two. One, you guys kind of got a real good glimpse of it this year. Alec Pierce.
Yeah.
Crazy. I think he went into the last game with like 36 catches with like 800 yards, which is insane.
Yeah.
But then also Ashton Doolin.
Oh,
is
really?
another
Okay.
receiver. I mean,
sure.
I never seen someone who is fast, strong, had great hands, big playmaking ability. He's a tear on special teams. I do think that if Ashton Doolin had more snaps, I mean, he'd be a household name. He's very talented.
Okay, that's cool.
I like that name.
I know,
Okay.
JT, you kind of were famously never got hurt, and you didn't miss a practice up until like 2022 or whatever. Now, the past few years, you've dealt with a few more injuries, nothing like chronic, but just like these niggling little things. Has that changed the way that you manage an off-season at all, and how are you kind of feeling at the moment?
No, I mean, it doesn't change it. Of course, you always want to give a little bit more attention to certain areas that you had problems with. But I was very blessed to really not miss, like you said, a game or a practice for a very long time, and had a lot of carries for a lot of seasons. So in my mind, being able to not even rationalize it, but like, okay, at some point the injury rate in the NFL is 100%.
Yeah.
The fact that it took until year 4, year 3 for something that happened to me in my whole career, it's a blessing. It's a testament to me taking care of my body. But now it's all about just getting back on track and now starting a new streak. That's all you can do is start a new streak.
I like that a lot. Let's talk about this game on Sunday. Obviously, you've got Saquon on one side, you got Pacheco and Hunt on the other. How do you see specifically the run games impacting Sunday, and who do you think wins?
Number one, I think the Chiefs are a very strategic run game kind of team. Like, they run the ball when they know they need to run the ball, and they execute it very well. I think Philadelphia, they have a explosive element to their run game. I mean, Saquon, it could be a 3rd and 1 run. Hey, let's just go get the first down, and he takes it 40 or takes it 60 yards. So whenever you have an element like that, that's definitely a game changer. I think that it'll definitely be a tough matchup for them. Their defense is very stout. The Chiefs' defense is very stout, but that's why you go and get a guy like Saquon Barkley to go and combat that.
Yep, absolutely.
Who do you think wins?
For me, fellow running back Saquon Barkley, I think he's definitely going to be a huge help to them. But then also, he's up for Defensive Player of the Year. A fellow Wisconsin teammate, Zach Bond.
Yep.
Let's go.
I have a lot of confidence that he'll help have that defense shut everything down. So I do think the Eagles are talented enough. I obviously want the Eagles to win. I want my fellow Badger to win. I want my fellow running back brother to win. So I'm thinking the Eagles take it.
Okay.
Fair enough. Last question for you, JT, before we get you out of here. Thank you so much for your time. You're here in partnership with Dairy Queen.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Dairy Queen has been taking such good care of me, not only in season, but definitely more so off season. I can indulge a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I'm here on behalf of them promoting their Sauce and Toss Honey Barbecue Chicken Strip Basket. And of course, if I get that, I have to get the Oreo Blizzard treat. That's just automatic. I'm actually going there right after this. This may not be me running around on the field, but this is taxing. You know, you're walking around, you're doing a lot of interviews.
Oh, yeah.
So I got to fuel myself back up. So I'm definitely going there after this. If you guys want any, actually, we could probably take care of you. I'll make sure when you guys leave here, we'll give you a little something. Just because that's the type of business that Dairy Queen is.
Okay, love it. Well,
appreciate that.
Indianapolis Colts fantasy superstar, real-life superstar, Jonathan Taylor. Thank you so much for your time, JT.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.